Hi Healing Fam, how you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing fine, doing wonderful. So in today's video, we're going to talk about why men feel like they were blindsided by their divorce and they don't understand, and the woman is being a good.
I did not know my daughter's pediatrician's name before I found out I was getting divorced. And you know what? Because they basically went to the doctor when I was at the office during the week. And so my ex handled that. What I did know is I spent 5 hours teaching each of my daughters how to ride a bike on a Saturday, 5 hours each kid, when I was available, because that's the kind of thing I was able to do. So what I can tell you is how that went. If you ask my ex-wife whether there were any tears that were shed, how many skinned knees there were, she won't be able to tell you anything about it. She won't be able to tell you the joy on their faces when they finally pedaled for themselves. Actually, she might be able to tell you about that because I filmed it and showed it to her. My point is, let's not put some litmus test out there to judge whether one parent is a good parent or not. This is not a man-woman thing.
It pained me to listen to this video in its entirety. It really did. This man is comparing having to know crucial information about his children and their doctors to him teaching his children how to ride a bike. Were you really blindsided? What happens if you were still married to your ex-wife and something happened to her? Let's say you guys got into an accident and she did not make it, and it is just you and the children, and she's gone suddenly, and you don't know anything about those children's doctors, where they go, what their pediatrician's name is. You don't know their teacher's name. That is not a flex. Your kids need to go to the doctor, and you're like, well, I don't know where to take them, but thank God they know how to ride their bike. Maybe they can ride their bike to the doctor's office. There were no signs. I don't know why my wife left me. Brother, I do. I do, in fact, know why. The fact that she probably had to take off work to take those kids to the doctor, but that's all her responsibility. It's not even a flex of mine that my husband knows my daughter's pediatrician or where she goes to the doctor. It's not a flex that my husband knows what size she wears, because that is just bare minimum parenting. People don't congratulate mothers on knowing their kid's doctor's name or what size they wear, so why are men congratulated for that? Oh my God, you know what size your kid wears? That's amazing. Why? I think knowing where your kids go to the doctor is a pretty good determination on whether or not you're a good parent. Somebody in the comment section was like, this is like that one dad that was like, I'm a good dad, I go to all the birthday parties, when his wife is the one that set all the birthday parties up. She was the one that planned them and bought everything for them and decorated for them, and he just showed up. There's a reason your wife left, and this is a good indication on why.
So yeah, in today's video, we're talking about discussing different perspectives on why men feel like they're blindsided or surprised when women leave their separation, and it's the choice of the woman to be like, I'm done here. I put up with so much and I'm at the breaking point. I brought in helpers, different helpers, pastors, therapists, coaches, whatever, friends, and it's still their way or no other way. There's emotional suppression, oppression. There is psychological suppression, oppression. There is financial suppression and oppression. There is literally a warfare against you, and you can sense it. It's almost like you're in a marriage, but you're living and dealing with an enemy, or they choose to view you as an enemy instead of a partner. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, they rather make it a point to want to break you instead. And this is where you can be in that roller coaster over and over and over for years, for decades. And honestly, outsiders sometimes cannot always see the picture when the person presents well outside. So yeah, this is why over 50%, if not 60 or more, of divorces are initiated by women. Go look at the articles. Go into Psychology Today. I always use that as my go-to for articles on mental health and different things like that. Psychology Today is a great resource. So if you're looking to see why the emotional and mental labor that falls on women, and this is why majority of the time when you go to churches, you see so many women crying, kneeling on the altar, begging, fasting, praying, twisting, doing everything. And sometimes I think, oh, if I lose weight, then maybe he will love me more. If I cook his favorite food, he'll love me more. Maybe if I friends with his mother, maybe if I serve his mother, if I serve him, if I do all the things, if I am more sexual with him, if I'm more this and that. No, this is what I say. This will keep you in a bond, in a whiplash. You have to choose you. When you see the first 2-3 red flags, and that person lacks the capacity, the bandwidth, the awareness to want to make any changes, they want their way or no other way, they want their cake and eat it too, they want to have you there doing all the labor and working, contributing financially, while they're suppressing and oppressing and criticizing what you use your money for, but you dare not criticize or say anything about all the things they do with their money. And the fact that you know and feel and can confirm that they have side piece or side pieces, you can tell that they're like emotionally disconnected, and actually emotionally disconnected, but still wanting to weaponize and minimize you in one way or the other. Like you're never good enough for them in their books. Sitting there and passively condemning this behavior is not the answer. It's happening right before you. You didn't provoke him. You didn't ask for that. When you first started, it was a partnership. You had goals and vision and dream. People choose to emotionally abuse you. It's their choice. They can choose differently, but they choose that path for a reason. And then when you leave, they act like, oh, you're trying to get their money, you're a gold digger, you're too much, you talk too much, you're not submissive, you're not respectful, you're not humble enough, you're not this enough, you're never enough. To someone like that who has narcissistic tendency, you are never enough. Your main key is to choose you, center you, for however long it will take for you to be able to jump out of that boat. Choose you always, financially, emotionally, psychologically, preserve you, learn and unlearn your patterns, because men will always find an excuse as to why they were blindsided. Meanwhile, they don't even know their children's date of birth. They don't even know their children's pediatrician. They don't even have the time to know their children's teacher's name or show up to conferences. If you don't remind them and send the email, the text, all of that stuff, they don't know. You're doing all the things, picking up, dropping off, doing an in-between. I went to a field trip the other time, chaperoning for my kid's school, and there were 2 or 3 other men there, and I was like, oh, this is my first time. I was being nervous because this was my first time. This is the first year that we actually had leverage in my schedule to be able to accommodate that. I'm like, hey, this year, they're like, oh yeah, my wife told me to come. I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know how. I've never come before. These are people who've been married for over decades. And I was like, oh wow, the same thing. You go to field day and the dads are there, or birthdays, same thing. And I myself have experienced it too, where all the moms do all the things and the men just show up. But in the midst of that, a lot of us are happy, more than happy to do it. But the problem that happens is when you're doing it, but that person is becoming your suppressor, your oppressor, your negator, like really feeling like they want to like crush you. That's what the problem is. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this debate on why men feel like they're blindsided by divorces and separations. And let's carry on this work. Okay, bye.
When a man says he was blindsided by his divorce, my perspective typically is that his partner was likely quiet quitting their marriage for a long time. We often hear about how women initiate most divorces in heteronormative relationships, and that men can feel really blindsided by the request for a divorce. And what I think has happened in many marriages over a long period of time is that after lots of discourse, specifically about the same thing over and over, and a lack of meaningful change, the woman tends to decide to stop engaging. No longer will she be emotional. No longer will she be asking for more from her partner. No longer will she be looking to them for any sort of meaningful partnership, because she's tried, right? Oftentimes we hear about how women are so emotional and they're never satisfied, and nobody's happy if mom's not happy, and that they're basically always asking for more from their partners. They're saying, great, you helped me do the dishes, but now can you do it right? Great, you provided me emotional support one time, but can you make sure to be an emotional support partner to me over the course of our marriage? And I think what happens from the male side is typically they are defensive. Men tend to be defensive when their partners come to them asking for any sort of change or engagement level that they're not comfortable with. Not only are they defensive, but sometimes instead of being defensive, they just appease their partner. They say like, yes, I will do that. Yes, I will change. Yes, I love you and I want to do better for you. And then they don't do that. And so after going through that cycle enough times, asking and being met with a yes, but no action, or asking and being met with defensiveness, asking and being dismissed, many women are saying, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my emotions. I'm going to protect my time. They might remain in that marriage for an extended period of time. There might be no fighting. And that's typically what men will say, like, we weren't fighting. Nobody was angry. There was nothing going on. Like, there was no big catalyst for this. And that's usually true. There was no big catalyst. It was just a bunch of little things that added up over time. And she got to a point where she decided, I'm no longer going to pour myself into this. I am now going to protect myself, and I'm going to bide my time, essentially quiet quit, until there's an appropriate point where I can actually leave. And I'm not advocating for this by any means. I personally think communication and counseling and things like that are very, very important. But I do think that's a big part of this narrative of being blindsided by divorce. They were blindsided because their partner had no longer been engaging with them in the way they had been historically. And so they seemed happy. But typically somebody doesn't just become more laid back or careless about something when there's been no actual meaningful change. It's not like they just stopped caring about that thing. They've likely just stopped looking to their partner as a safe person to engage with, and not really a partner at all.
Let's keep it real, y'all. Men are not blindsided by divorce. I don't know why dudes be getting up on here acting like, oh my goodness, they just didn't know he was a good man and she just left him out of... That's some BS, bro. It's been many a times where that woman done says she need you to step up and you say okay and you don't do it. She tell you to step up again. You say okay, don't do it. Stop lying. You ain't blindsided by nothing. These women be expressing their feelings all the time of what they need for you to do, they concerns, what's going on, and yet you're not being man enough for them. So guess what? You get divorced, she get quiet. Now she not even talking. You know that divorce coming. Men ain't blindsided by it. Can we stop lying? Stop lying. That's why I don't even listen to men and they sob stories. Oh my God, well, I was doing all this and I was doing all that. No, you wasn't, because if you was, she would have never kept telling you that you need to step up. And that's usually what happens, right? She tell you the same thing over and over and over again. You say you're going to make some adjustments. You say you're going to do it. And you let her down every time by not being a man of your goddamn word. So miss me with this nonsense that y'all out here blindsided by divorce. Nah, bro. She gone because you didn't do what you were supposed to do to keep that woman. Which is the case 9 times out of 10. So miss me with this nonsense. Men be blindsided by divorce. Shut up.
He went on to explain about how many hours he worked per week, that he was working like 60 hours a week. And the only time that he had left with his kids was basically on the weekends. Each kid, he spent about 5 hours training them on how to ride their bike. Okay, so essentially what he said there was his kids had no idea who he was. So how the hell would he know who the pediatrician was? Listen, being an involved father doesn't necessarily just mean that, oh, you just kind of just show up for all those manly things, like help him ride a bike, help him change a tire. It means a lot of the little small things too, like teaching them how to take dishes out of the dishwasher. Knowing where the pediatrician is very nice to know, especially since they're your kids. If there's an emergency and you need to take them somewhere, there's a little section on the ER form that actually says, who is your child's doctor? And if you don't know, you got a problem. Full disclosure, I think my wife is amazing. My wife has never taken my kid in the last 2 years, to the pediatrician. Not her fault. She's been having to go to work. So I take the time and I take my kids to the pediatrician. There's more to being a man than just providing a check. Because if all you're doing is providing the check, then you're just a provider. Remember, wives need more than just somebody that brings home the bacon, so to speak. Here's an easy way to think of it. How can you lead a home that you have no idea how it operates? How do you lead a wife or a family? You don't know who they are. How do you expect people to follow you if you can't lead by example? How do you want your wife to call you the head of the household if the head's never there? The head doesn't know where to lead. The head can't tell her where to go because he doesn't know. It's more than just bringing home the bacon.
Overwhelmingly, the guys that come into our office for us to represent them in a divorce case will say to us they've been blindsided when their wife files for divorce. And so if you wonder why I'm doing so many pieces on why women file, what they're seeing, why they believe there's a problem with the relationship, why the relationship failed, why they want a divorce, that's why I'm doing those pieces. Because we as guys are just not, we're not seeing it. We're not getting it. I don't know if we're just not tuned in enough or if we're just ignoring it. But I want to tell guys, this is why women, so that you don't come into my office and say, oh my God, I was blindsided. I had no idea. How was the relationship? You got to be in it, man. You got to be observant while you're in it.
When a divorced man tells you that he has absolutely no idea why his wife left him, particularly after a long marriage, like we see in this comment, 27 years, don't believe them. Or maybe I'm saying that wrong. Believe them, but also understand that the problem is with them. Let's take a closer look at this comment. Correct. Divorced after 27 years, still have no idea why. 6 kids. She never had to work, country club daily, and I loved her to death. Women and the Me Too movement. All that. I can do it myself with my money. I mean, it's right there. Right? I think most of us can see it. So 27 years, 6 kids, country club, didn't have to work, your money, your money. I bet she heard a lot about your money. And I bet she heard a lot about the fact that she doesn't have to work. And I bet she heard a lot about the country club and all of the other things that went along with it. I mean, it's all right there. And the fact that the commenter is saying that they have no idea why, you have no idea why at all. It just poof happened. I mean, 27 years is a long time to build resentment. This person has a lot of anger and a lot of money. And you know what happens to men with a lot of money who have a lot of anger? They're men whose wives leave them. And I'm one of them. I left a country club lifestyle. Had a house here, had a house in Florida. He will say, I didn't have to work. The reality is I was given an ultimatum. You choose between working and your marriage. And to everyone else, I lived the life. And to everyone else, he is, I'm sure, telling them that he has no idea why I left. But I told him loud and clear all along during the years. Look, the men who have no idea why their wife left them tell on themselves the loudest.
I believe that in this generation, there's going to be so many men suffering from abandonment melange because they're not going to know why their women divorced them, why she moved out. They're going to be blindsided and have no idea why. Because here's the thing, women have been working on their abandonment issues. They're working on learning how to trust others. They are trying to build healthy support systems. They're embracing the trauma and trying to understand it fully so they can move on and heal. They're centering themselves. Men are not doing that. For the ones that are, good for you, but the majority of dudes aren't. So they're walking around shattered with rage and they're just depressed and they feel like they're scattered pieces of lint. And it's like, you had somebody that could go through the fire with you and you took that for granted. And ladies, I'm telling you right now, if you meet a man who tells you he was blindsided by his divorce, you need to run. You need to run. Because that means that when you try to bring up a subject, a complaint that you have with him, he's going to act like he doesn't know where that came from. That your complaint came out of nowhere. That your unhappiness just came out of nowhere. He's not dumb. He's just weaponizing his incompetence. Take care of yourselves. Put yourselves first. Continue to do so.
When a man says he was blindsided by his divorce, my perspective typically is that
one of the tricks that I've used to get men to understand how much labor they're leaving on their wives and why it's going to lead to conflict or divorce is translating the domestic labor into work terms. Like, Jimmy, look, if you are on a team and you're not pulling your weight, your teammates are not going to be happy. But not only that, you know very well that you might not have that job for a very long time. So if you can get that at work, if you can understand that in the workspace, why is it so hard for you to understand in the domestic sphere, inside your home, especially for a partner? You ain't married to your coworkers, but you're married to your wife. Why is that so hard?
The comment section on TikTok is literally the wild, wild west. And some of these people, I just wonder, what the hell are you thinking? So I started a series about loneliness in my marriage and overcoming it. And someone commented and said, that's a you problem, not a him problem. And to the man who said that, I am willing to put money on you being either single or divorced. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. If you are married and your wife comes to you and says, I need X from you, you need to listen. The men who don't listen are the ones who say, I don't know what happened. She just came one day and served me with divorce papers out of nowhere. No, sir, not out of nowhere. I guarantee you, she gave you many signs, signals, and clues in the form of conversation, in the form of her expressing her needs that weren't being met. You just chose not to listen and or say, that's a you problem, not a me problem. So yeah, if you want to stay married, I highly recommend that you listen to your partner, especially if they're communicating a need that's not being met.
Something we don't talk about nearly enough when it comes to the mental load or the fact that women do the bulk of the childcare or the chores in the house is that the unintended consequence of women doing most of this work, even when they work full time, is that dad gets to be the fun guy. Dad gets to be the fun parent, the one who comes home from work and plays with them on the floor, the chill, relaxed guy. He's the fun parent. And he's the fun parent because mom is ultimately accountable and responsible for making sure that everything in the home is functioning. She's making sure everybody has the food that they need and that their clothes are washed and that their doctor's appointments are scheduled. She's the person emailing the teacher. She's the person responsible for making sure that the family and the home is functioning. And not only is she responsible for that, she's carrying the mental load, and so her brain never shuts off. And so she never has time or space to spend on simply having fun with her kids, even if she wants to. And this dynamic exists in so many different ways, right? Moms oftentimes are the ones doing research or the ones enforcing rules like screen time. And dads will say something like, hey, bud, sorry, we have to shut the TV off. Mom says we've watched too much TV. And it paints moms in this light as though they're the bad guy and they never get to have fun. And dad's the fun, chill one. But dad gets to be fun and chill because mom is doing the bulk of the work. And what's so frustrating about this is that women want that time and space. And the only way they can get that time and space is if their partner equally shows up to carry the work of managing a home. We've also positioned this in a unique way where men get true free time and women are told that a shower by themselves or grocery shopping alone or cooking while the husband watches the kids is time for herself. That is giving her a break. When in reality, that is just more time to do more work. This dynamic is incredibly unfair. And not only is it unfair, but it also leads to resentment and burnout. It is not good for marriages or relationships. And women deserve just as much time as their partners to spend on having fun with their kids and enjoying free time and working out or whatever it might be. And they should not have to view cooking dinner while their husband watches the kids as a break, because that's not a break, right? They're still doing a chore that is for the benefit of the home. In order to change this dynamic where dad gets to be the fun guy and mom's the enforcer of all of the rules and the one who has no fun, we really need men to show up as equal partners in a home with equal responsibility and accountability to making sure the home functions well. Because if that does not exist, moms will continue to bear the brunt of this work and ultimately the consequence of being seen as the parent who doesn't get to have fun, which is incredibly unfair when they're the person who's putting in the work to make sure that everyone has what they need.